2018 budget and fishing derby.
I just made copies of the budget. And so why it reads like that is the big question is, do you wanna keep running that for?
Share it over.
And whatever. Had.
Glasses, they aren't any better than the old one. I just need to see how some names.
Matt Lepore is L-E-P-O-R-E.
So what is the feelings in reference to the fishing derby? Do we want to still leave that in the budget?
Well, I think if it's gonna be held, that the money should be held in the budget.
Mhm.
I know, I don't have any interest in doing it next year.
Right.
I don't know who else did.
You're half of our workforce. You and your family.
Yeah.
I had brought it up in the last
Right.
meeting that we have a local
Yeah, business.
supplier who was interested in sponsoring it, okay? And I guess she asked Tom, he asked to put it on hold till the full board was here. I can get hold of this person and see what his interest is and how much is he willing to get involved.
Right, because if he wants to run it himself, he should do it independent of us.
Well, that's the impression I got because apparently the board was not overly enthusiastic on continuing running the fishing derby.
Yeah, our prime participants have been working hard for some of them for 30 years.
Yes, I know, and I understand that. So,
And we seem to be getting the same, as some of them age out, but we seem to be getting the same kids over and over. That's not a problem, but,
I mean, I can, if it's okay, I can get hold of this person, see if he's interested, and see what his interest level is, and if it is no interest, then
No,
that's,
well, that's the question. If there is no interest, if there is interest on his part, he should run it independent of us. He should
Right.
hold the permit.
So what is the deadline as far as our budget on that aspect?
It's coming up, I think, like September. And then if, we need to know if he's not interested, the question is, do we still wanna do it?
Right. Yes.
With Marion, I just assume not do it.
You know, and it isn't that we don't like doing it for the kids. It's, I've been doing it since I joined the board,
Yeah, I've been doing it probably
even
30
longer.
years.
10 years, yeah.
So, you know,
And it is, I mean, we could probably practically run it with our eyes closed, but it is a lot of work. Running around doing signs and getting all the
well,
supplies and.
do I have the,
Yeah,
can I
I
go
would say, why don't you
investigate it and then?
why don't you discuss with the gentleman and see if he is interested, to what level he's interested?
Yeah.
And it's
I
not so,
mean-
it's not so much a financial aspect, is he interested in running it
Yeah.
with the.
The worst he's gonna do is say no.
That's right.
And that'll be that.
But that's my question. If he says no,
Yeah.
what do we wanna do?
Then that'll be up to, we'll make our decision next meeting, I would say, whether we, plug it in or unplug it in.
Okay.
So is the rec commission definitely not interested, or do we have a response from them?
They couldn't get anybody on the rec commission interested in taking it on, is what I
So,
heard
as a-
from one person.
As a town body or a group or whatever, it's us or nobody.
It's us, yeah, exactly, right.
Now, I can't, I mean, I'm with Marion and Joe, and I like doing it too, but I feel for you've done it for a long, long time, Joe, and you especially, I think you've fulfilled your obligation. Marion's been doing it before me, but if you guys drop out, I wouldn't be able to do it on my own,
Yeah,
so.
couldn't handle it
And
alone.
the other issue is, it really isn't something that is a purvey of the Conservation Commission. It's really more of a recreation thing. We've done it for years, but
Right.
it really isn't something that we should be doing.
Okay, so we'll table that, as far as the actual decision on it. Harry will
Yeah.
research with that gentleman, see what his interest is,
Yeah.
and then we'll make our decision whether or not,
Yeah.
if he says no, then we'll just go from
Fine.
there, make our decision whether we are gonna consider picking it up or not.
Okay,
We do have a couple of new people on the board now and coming on the board, so there might be some other considerations, so we'll
okay.
discuss that a little more in depth.
how much is in here for the fishing derby?
That's the last line item.
Okay,
I think it's like 800.
800.
Okay, very good, okay. Do we have any other budget information, or is that it for?
Well, they just plug in the numbers
Yeah, from
we
the
had
past,
last year,
yeah.
and then if we want to add or change anything, we should let them know.
The next item is Jack Curtin. He's applied for the alternate position. I think most of us know you, Jack. Yeah.
Thank you. Just take a look at it and pass it on.
The hot seat tonight.
That's it. So, we thank you for volunteering your time, Jack, and thank you for being the TV man. Yeah.
Pass that down. While they're looking at it, I have a question. Would you, if the board decides to suggest to the selectmen that they appoint you, be able to attend the New Hampshire Association of Conservation Commissions the first Saturday in November? It's a good training experience, same thing from that. It's a town pays your way and really good
Absolutely, yes.
training. Maybe the second Saturday is, but I would let you know.
Thank you.
It's November.
Do you have any questions of us, Jack?
Not right at this moment, but thank you for your time.
Does anybody here have any questions for Jack?
So you would be available the first, we usually meet the first Thursday of the month here. And then 4 times a year, we clean up 3A, 2 miles of 3A for the state. And we go to selectmen's meetings or zoning board meetings as needed.
Absolutely.
I'd entertain a motion at this time that we recommend Jack Curtin as an alternate member to the Board of Selectmen. Is there a second?
I
Motion?
make that motion.
Motion's made.
Need a second?
Need a second.
Second?
Second.
30 seconds? Okay.
Joan and
Any further questions? All those in signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous.
So I'll turn your
Thank you.
paperwork into the town administrator, and then he'll let you know when you can meet with the selectmen, and because the selectmen make the appointments.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jack.
Let me go back to my
Back to work.
my corner.
Wetlands permit application, shoreline permit application, Pennachuck Waterworks, is it the one we were discussing
This is
several
the
months ago?
ones, this is all for the Pennachuck water line. I have the files that they submitted to the state, if anybody wants to look at them. They make good reading. So they filed for their wetlands permit and their shoreline permit.
Mhm.
So that is in the works.
Where are they supposed to cross the Merrimack?
Red Talent Road,
Pardon?
right opposite Talent
At the
Road.
fish hatchery,
At the fish, where the old fish rearing station where they used to raise the salmon. years
Really?
ago. Yeah.
go under come from the Merrimack side, just south of the intake, under the river, then they have a surface because there's a big hunk of granite, and then come up on the south of Talent Road, go up the side of the fence of the fish hatchery, and then up between Broadview and the parents'
I'm
property.
gonna go under,
Town
I'm
road.
fascinated the fact that they can go under the river.
Yeah, some of it's gonna be laying on top of the ledge in the river, they described
Yeah.
it to us. They're actually gonna build a cage over the concrete, well, I use the term concrete, some kind of solid matter over the top of the pipe where they can't get underneath
They're
it.
gonna do a
Basically, it's
copper
gonna be under the
dam,
river.
a copper dam there to, when they have to come up, and then daylight it on the bank at the fish
There's a
hatchery.
lot of people who'd like to see
Is
the
the fish
operation that's going on,
hatchery
I know
still
that. Including
Oh, well,
myself.
Yeah,
Fencing's there, but it's.
but
really
that won't
department
affect the
overgrown.
flow of the
No,
river
oh, no,
or?
no, no. No, that's a very deep hole in that area. It's, what they say, that's around 25, 30 feet in that area?
Forget it.
Yeah, it's about 30 feet deep in that area, I think they said.
And they're also putting in I don't remember if it was part of this permit, they're putting in a new intake. The intake they have is over by the, just north of the treatment plant, and it's up against the shore, and it gets silted in there to dig it out like every 2 weeks, so they're bringing the pipe to the middle of the river and doing a new intake there. I think that's the second part of the project.
Yeah, it's another part, yeah, right. So there's nothing we have to act upon on that?
No, I'm just telling you that, that stuff came in.
Good, yeah, that's good to know. Okay, River Access Subcommittee report. And who's reporting for the committee tonight? Okay.
Hi, Jason Brennan, 23 Aldrich. So Joan asked me this afternoon, last minute, come in and give an update. So I quickly sent out a message on Facebook, and some of the folks behind us are on the committee as well.
Excuse me. On Facebook, under what's it?
The Litchfield What's Up
It
page,
was just an instant message on,
to the committee,
yeah,
just to the
just
committee.
sent
Okay.
out quickly, try to get a few people here.
Okay.
Give you a thought, I'd take a second just to go back in time to give you an update on where we've been since our last meeting. The River Access Committee hasn't met in a little while right now because we've been kind of in the doldrums, just trying to figure things out, but I thought I'd just go back in time just to refresh everybody's mind. Last year, there was a poll completed in town, and 1,850 people voted, and the long and the short of it is that river access was the runaway thing that folks wanted in town. In fact, the river access vote got double the votes of anything of the number 2 winner there. And so that was just kind of a gauge to figure out that, geez, maybe people in town are looking to get river access, maybe we'll form a committee. So we came to you and a committee was formed. The interest there is number 4 was protecting the farmland, and the trails were in there as well, but we're focused on the river access. So we put together the committee. We came into the Conservation Commission and put together a committee, consists of 12 members. A lot of the folks are sitting back here right now. The mission was that we were charged with evaluating sites for potential river access point. And the objective really was to figure out carry-in access, not going down there with power boats. At one of the meetings that we had, we came up with a criteria list of things that we thought were important as far as river access was concerned. And they included things like how steep were the slopes, ease of access, the conditions of the river, visibility from the road, any disruption, do we have to knock down any trees, topography, and things like that. So we took all that into consideration. We then, as part of the committee, went and started identifying sites, and we came up with seven sites, some of which were owned by the town, some owned by the state, some were private. And we took a look at all these sites, and we essentially chopped them down to about four sites. The ones that we left off were mostly steep slopes, private, have to go in a half a mile, things like that. We then did a few site walks. One of the sites that we looked at is not on this map. It's up in Manchester underneath the bridge. That's the first site walk that we did that Rich Lascelles set up with the state. And we quickly determined that we couldn't do anything there just due to the fact that it's engineered a certain way. They've got a critter crossing going through there. Can't be done. So we met with the committee, and then we had a second site walk, and we took a look at the 3 pieces of property in the middle of town that were on the list. Number 1 is owned by the state. That's across from the library. Number 2 is privately owned. That's the Jefferson lot. And number 3 is the lot that's owned by the town, 296 Charles Bancroft Highway. Most of the folks in the room here went on those site walks, and we walked into number 1, the state-owned piece of property, and just couldn't get in there because a bunch of pucker brush, and it's got very steep slopes there. Number 2, when we walked into Jefferson's, is beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous, beautiful, checked all the boxes. But obviously it's privately owned, so that got crossed off the list. I think everybody behind us could see that was there. They were kind of bummed when they walked into that. They're like, oh my God, we're not going to find anything as good as here. Then we walked over to site number 3, which I don't think any of us had ever been on, and were very pleasantly surprised that it had the same attributes as site number 2. Had a very slight grade from the road to the river conditions were good. You didn't even have to chop down a tree. It checked all the boxes. Then we reconvened as a group in this room right here, and had a little discussion on each of the of the sites and decided that this site at 296 Charles Bancroft Highway was the most favorable. And that we figured that we would pursue what it would take to put river access on this site. So we came up with a conceptual plan, and this is conceptual plan number 1. And we kind of schemed this while we were at the site itself. We happened to see a road that was going through the middle of the farm field, and thought that was kind of a fixture, that there was just like a farm road that always stayed put. So we set up a conceptual plan that put in a gravel road from the street all the way down to the river to a place where you can park maybe 5 or 6 cars. And we then came in and talked to the Conservation Commission and actually the Rec Commission as well, and the Planning Board, and talked about this concept. And it was at the Conservation Commission where it was mentioned that it would probably be better if the access road was on the south side of the property to not cut through the farm field. So we then came up with conceptual plan number 2, that should say number 2 there, where we slid it over to the south side of the property. And as far as that is concerned, that actually reduced the length of the road from somewhere in the vicinity of 800 feet to 600 feet. And the slopes are all good, everything like that checked out. So this has kind of been sitting there for a little while now, and summertime, he's going up to Old Orchard Beach, we all got our stuff going on, and over the past few weeks, it's kind of perked up again. And we met with the folks at McQuestion Farm last night, they're the folks that actually, I guess, use this piece of property for farming purposes, and laid out the plan and told them everything that has been done to date, just to make sure everybody is on the same page. They had some concerns when we met with them last night, and they had some concerns, obvious concerns, that if people go down there, they could go four-wheeling, they could go tearing through the field. You get out of sight. They could be doing stuff down by the river that you don't want to be doing. They're concerned about theft of pumpkins and things like that. So while we were sitting there meeting with them, we came up with back of the napkin, Scheme B, okay, which potentially could be using the same site, but maybe only bringing the road in a few hundred feet, setting up some boulders along the side so that nobody can get out of there and start driving around the field, and that no vehicle access would be allowed past that point. And then also, any police coming down the road could actually see if there are cars parked there. So the people that would use the river would have to park there and would have to haul the thing down a few hundred feet. That was just dreamt up last night. No one back here has even seen this yet, but that was just spur of the moment type of thing to try to figure out if we can make this all work. So that's where we're at. So the next steps and recent things that have been going on is, like I said, last night we met with the land lease holder. We also, a few folks checked in with the police and fire department, and they didn't see any major concerns as well. Rich Lascelles over there had been looking at costs and options to complete this. As we had mentioned at the previous meeting, we're trying to make this as low impact as possible. Small gravel road, space for about 6 cars. We took a look at the site right here. That's a 13-acre site. That area encompasses less than 10% of that physical property right there. So it's a very small portion of the property. Low impact. Don't want to ruin any of the fields or anything like that. Make it as low impact as possible. So Rich was taking a look into what it would cost and options to actually put in the gravel road. The next step is that we've got to reconvene the River Access Committee, hopefully by the end of the month, and kind of go over the things that have happened over the few months, and then go from there. So that is where we are at.
Did you talk to them the questions about Scheme B and whether or not that satisfies their concerns?
We did Scheme B, and sorry, because no one back here knows what Scheme B is. I sat for a couple minutes to figure out what scheme it would be, but I don't know what B stands for, but B is backup plan.
Okay.
We did show them this, and this only happened last night, and literally I had a Sharpie with a with a map on the table and physically drew it out, and that was it. And at that point in time, I think for them, they need to maybe sit on it a little bit and then think about it. So I don't think, it's timely to expect anything now. Now, we did talk about the parcel two to the south, the state piece of property, which when we investigated with Joan, I thought that was a non-starter because the banks are 20 to 30 feet high, and it would probably take an act of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to actually engineer a boat ramp there. And this, it's already right there. And
There is one more adjoining piece to that the town owns.
yeah,
The
there's
state
an,
line, yeah.
and that,
There is direct access to the river. They used to put boats in there all the time.
You mean,
it's very steep there.
Leo
Yeah,
Savini
that's all
Sullivan, yeah.
Yeah, it's overgrown and it is steep there.
You'd have to get-
That's a 20, all along there up to that piece of property just to the south of there is a 20 to 30 foot bank. We looked at the topos regarding that.
Anthony, do you think people are gonna immediately start complaining about carrying their boats about 500 feet? I mean,
I have to ask some of these guys here. I mean, you have to compromise, so, and there's some other concerns, and I think everybody here, we haven't had a chance to talk about it, could get it, that if you're driving in a car down there and they're kind of out of sight off the road, you don't have any control about what's going on over there. So I think it's something we have to talk about as a committee and, figure it out.
And if it's this access versus no access,
Right. Half a loaf versus no loaf, yeah. Yeah. Does anybody have any questions?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I'm just curious, if you built a site like this, we didn't talk about that originally, the site all the way down, would you set up some sort of system where there'd be a canoe wheel access, you could leave at the site? You could wheel your canoe down and back.
what do you mean that you could leave?
What's that?
What do you mean that you could leave it?
Like a set of wheels that would stay
Like
down
a
there.
stroller type thing.
You could bring your own, but I don't think that we would be leaving anything there.
No, but somebody,
They could leave
So,
it.
again, John Wright, 16 Arcadian Lane, and I'm with the Litchfield Recreation Commission. So Joan, what I've seen with other towns, they actually have access to lakes, ponds, it's not river access, but they've actually got a wheeled system. Put your canoe on it, you wheel it down, you return the wheel for the next person to use it.
I don't know,
It's not a bad thing,
Something
they're
we
fairly
could talk
cheap,
about.
and it would save that access of carrying a
Yeah.
canoe or a kayak for 400.
I think if we get to that point, we'd leave that up to the recreation committee to work on that. We'd be out of the loop on that.
It was discussed last night, because I would definitely bring it up to the Recreation Commission to go with something like
Yeah.
that. We have common things in town right now that have locks on them that, hundreds of people in town have access to,
Yeah.
but others don't. We look at that in the same mindset, because I think the Recreation Commission has been looking at this as Litchfield residents only. That's how we talked about it. We want to put a sign up there and go from that end. The River Access Committee hasn't met since the Recreation Commission discussed this about access for town residents only.
Something they should talk about.
Especially crossing that land.
Yeah.
That is a very sensitive issue in reference to the farmer, and I mean, I'm biased, my brother-in-law is the one that rents the farm, but I mean, the theft is a major issue for him, and has been ever since it's been recommended and suggested. I mean, the farmers, whether it be him or any other farmer, the theft in this town and every town in America is astronomical, but if you put the road all the way down through, the theft would become just prolific, so,
How much does he lose per year in theft?
he wouldn't even guess,
You don't even know.
he's bad, but the apple orchards are worse,
Yeah.
Margaret?
Margaret Berg, 294 Charles Bancroft Highway, the house that you see right there. So, I have a couple concerns. One, I volunteered to be on this committee, and I didn't get the email or message that there was a meeting tonight and we were supposed to be here. So I've gotten intermittent lack of information. I don't know if that's because I'm the abutter or not. But that being said, one of the big concerns is that access is the only access for irrigation to water those fields.
That's an equestrian issue, though, right?
Did that come up last night at all?
That's a East Land issue. So, as a group, I mean, how do you handle that?
You're talking about the access shown on Scheme B?
Right.
Yeah. Well, anyhow.
She's talking about right,
Down the river access.
she's talking about right here.
Irrigation pump in.
They put a pump right there to go into the river.
Needs to be.
So anyway, my question is, I mean, first of all, how do you accommodate that from a realistic standpoint?
You mean the,
And because if you're putting in piping and all that takes a lot of time and you want people wheeling things over it, I mean, everyone in this room would probably be very respectful of farmers' equipment, but not everybody is in this room. So that's a concern. I mean, my concern clearly is that you can't see anything. If you drive by there and take a picture today, you can't see that access point. I haven't seen any schematics or cost studies done of the state property. You say there's a high grade, but how much does it cost even if you get people to donate that? How much does it cost to dig into that and put that in? Has that even been considered?
Permitting is the issue. Shoreline protection permitting is the issue.
I know we've
You've
been
been
through
there.
that process personally. So my question is, has anybody even tried that? Or is
It was asked in the Western Mass.
So, can I address a couple things?
Certainly, please.
Number one, on the pump.
Mhm.
We had a very brief discussion about the irrigation pump last night, and from what I understand is that the pump is maybe about half the size of this table,
No.
maybe a little bit bigger.
Quite a
But
bit
that,
bigger.
but
Quite a bit
what they
bigger.
were showing, they were saying this
Quite a bit bigger.
this big.
Yeah, it's quite a bit bigger.
So it only takes up a small portion of the 200-foot frontage. We discussed that right there. In regards to the state property, as a committee, we met several months ago, and we had a long discussion about the state property. This access right here checks all the boxes, including it's town-owned, and there is almost, the cost of implementing this is next to nothing. It is putting down some gravel, and that's it. The cost to do it on the state piece of property, number one, it's not even ours. Number two, the banks are 20 to 30 feet high.
I think are you talking about the state piece to the south or the one up at
well, there's two.
there's the Manchester, in Manchester.
Which one?
But the one you're talking
Morse Falls
about
is town-owned.
up north,
Right. The
the
one that,
visibility is gone.
The one on the north part of town at Moores Falls,
Right.
that is 2,500 feet from the road to the river. It also crosses a piece of property that is not owned by the town. There's like an old rail right-of-way through there.
Yep.
And if you go through the check boxes that we went through,
Not-
it doesn't meet anything.
but the parking is all on 3A. It's not further down.
Well,
Just
that's
like
why-
this
But
is.
parking is
But
just
the
one.
parking is 2,500 feet from the river. This is not 2,500 feet.
So
from the
we
river.
had a lot of this discussion during the River Access Committee meetings. Unfortunately, you weren't there at those ones.
Yeah, unfortunately.
You were on those emails, though.
Some I was and some I was
I know
not.
you were on those emails.
And I guess my other concern is, on this particular parcel, when the Conservation Commission met to acquire this parcel, and I was at one of the meetings where you met and you talked about if you wanted to acquire it. The vote was to keep it as farmland in perpetuity. That was the vote by the commission.
I read the minutes, and there was a lot of talk about river access on that, and there was never any stipulation on what the use of that land was to be.
There was at that vote,
There-
and there was later, there was some back.
There are no
talking.
deed restrictions on that property. I was at that hearing also with the selectmen, and the way we told the selectmen about it, yes, we want to say farmland, definitely, and it has river access, and that is in the minutes of the selectmen.
We're
This,
talking about the commission meeting.
No, but when we talked about it at the commission, there was a lot of discussion about keeping it farmland, yes, that's why we're really concerned, but nobody said we will never have river access for a boating area on this. We
This-
did talk about the fact that it could provide good river access. We just hadn't made a decision, but we certainly didn't rule that out.
it's not like we're getting rid of the farm access there for Charlie to work the farm.
Anybody else?
We're just
anybody-
looking
or
at a
anybody
way
else.
to get down to the river. And, you know, if you're gonna park up at the top there, people are gonna have to walk down. And I know it's a lot shorter than up at the north end, because I've walked both ends.
Yeah, I've walked the other end as well.
So, you know, and I
So,
think,
Are
and
you
all,
keeping, are you intending on keeping, if this is what a proposal is, are you intending on keeping the dotted line as, are you gonna, again, dig that out and have that excavated? Or are you going to just keep it natural?
We haven't even,
That's,
so
well,
this,
that's important.
this came up last night, but I think the intent would be to make that red area gravel and make that, the yellow dotted line, some sort of path that people can just walk down.
Just like you'd see the path up at the bridge.
Just like, yeah, and just actually like you see the path, you know, right,
what is
that little road right here.
line just north of it that cuts?
So you're saying
through?
mow
So
or chop
that's the
down but not
driveway.
gravel?
Driveway, don't you see the property line?
Look, it's,
Oh,
listen,
okay.
this is a farming community. Everybody loves the farms in this town. When I drive up 3A, and I probably can speak for a lot of the people here, you look around and you say, this is awesome. Had that highway or had that railroad been on this side of the river, we would be Merrimack, okay, with strip malls going up and down. People move here because they love the rural character of the town.
And
What
we
we're trying to do here, and we are extremely sensitive
This is
to
people's
that.
money to protect farmland, a big chunk of the people's money to protect that farmland. And that's what we intend to do, whether it's farmed with that or with cattle. It should stay farmland. Not to say that we wouldn't have a path to get to the river.
And so, when we're talking about this, we're extremely sensitive to that and are trying to make this as low impact as possible.
Steve Gannon, Nessun King Drive. Some of the things we consider too is, we're not talking about swimming. We don't even know if people are gonna use it for fishing. It's mainly just access for kayaks, access for canoes, where local residents can't get onto the river. One of the reasons why we really like that area too is when we looked at it in April, it's a gentle slope, but the river was very, very calm at that point. We also were considering, we don't want anybody carrying a kayak and twisting their ankle, and then now we have to send in the fire department. So we're trying to get down as close to the river as possible, smoothest area where somebody can comfortably carry a canoe or a kayak as close to the river as possible. The north part of town, that was one of the reasons why we decided not to go with the horse farm area. It's 2,500 feet, as Jason said. It's also very treacherous. Guaranteed somebody will end up hurting themselves. So the closer we can get to the river, the better off. We also considered, can the police patrol it? We don't want cops getting out of the cars to have to walk down there. We want them to be able to drive down there easily. This will prevent it. They'll know if there's somebody down there, but then they're gonna have to walk down. So if we can get them down to where the people are, I think that'll even be better. And then also, as he said, it's only local residents. I only anticipate, half a dozen people using it at any time, during the weekend most likely.
Does anybody on the committee have any questions?
Rich?
Just let the
Rich
chairman
Lascelles, 236 Charles Bancroft. I probably didn't kayak made kick my crippled up butt on the river, so I'm not here to speak for myself. But I think I grew up on a farm in the Midwest. I've driven a lot of dirt roads, a lot of gravel roads, a lot of grass roads, and I think it's an absolute travesty that the town of Litchfield sits here on a beautiful stretch of the Merrimack River, and for all of these hundreds of years, we don't have public access for people who, the town has so many young people who are starving for recreation, and this is a perfect use of that land. Now, that doesn't mean we're gonna hurt the farmland. It's not gonna mean that at all. And everybody is sensitive to that. I have a question. How much is the rent on this property?
You get $1,500 a year,
$1,500 a year for how many acres?
13.
13, so it's a little over $100 an acre for the year. Okay. like I say, there's, the river is a public resource. We have a lot of people in town who would love to be able to have access to the river. You know, this is fine, but to me, I don't think the people in Litchfield are gonna abuse having access all the way down the river. Now, that's just me. I don't think that's a problem. Now, I can understand the McQuestons having the issue. And if I was in their position, I might feel the same way, but I don't feel it's an issue. Now, if it was, then we could back to this point. I don't see a problem with that. But my point is, the town bought the land, the Conservation Commission bought the land for the use, the best use for the town, which is farmland and access to the river. And this is a perfect application. If you're going to, if this doesn't happen, you're going to see a groundswell of support from the people, these 1,900 people that voted for this. You're going to see those people up in arms about having people squash this. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a comment. All along, I have maintained, I do not want to create an attractive nuisance, meaning if you could drive down there and you can't see people, there's going to be problems. That's why I'm so opposed to Moore's Falls, because 2,500 feet and the police aren't going to be able to patrol it that often. I think this addresses the problem of having the parking, people that are going to use it the way it's supposed to be used up front. People that are going to cause problems probably are not going to walk down and create problems down there. They're going to create the problems up in the parking lot. So I think that addresses a lot of the issue about not being able to see people down there.
I'm going to wrap up the public hearing.
I have one other thing, that one town official is upset that we're not looking at it for fire department access. But we always maintain that it was always going to be carry-in access, so.
The fire department has access from both ends of town. They have, at Wilson's Farm, they have an
They
access
have, right, they can go
which
to
is
private.
enhanced for them. It's got it all fixed up for them, and the grade's perfect. No, they have plenty of access for, whatever. So,
That's all I
well,
have.
we thank you for your input tonight.
Can I have one more?
I'm wrapping
one
up.
more- One more thing.
One question. The lady in the back has
Oh,
never spoken
sorry.
tonight.
Diane Sansky, 144 Talent Road. When we met last night, it was because I was there buying corn, and Charlie kind of grabbed me and said, hey. So that's why it was so quick. It's who he asked to speak to last night. But one thing that was brought up during the meeting with him last night, which was an honor to speak to him, and I'm glad he took his time to talk to us who don't know everything about what's going on down there, to tell us how it impacted them. When the skate park became a problem up at Dara, our town ripped that out. And if this became a problem, a legitimate problem, then our town would get rid of this. This is not something that is going to be, 5 stories of building that you'll never be able to dig out of there. This is a path for people to walk on, to bring their canoe to the river, to stay out of the fields, to support our farmers. I've done a lot to get what our farmers do out there on our WhatsApp News channel. I've interviewed all the farmers in town. I've gotten face-to-face with all of them, and I deeply care about what they think and what they need to do their jobs. But if it doesn't work, we can take it out. It is an option.
Thank you. Jason, I'll let you wrap up.
Yep. So we put a lot of work into this, and if there were another option, we would look at it. But there really isn't another feasible option. That's number one. Number two, I want to make something extremely clear, is that any meeting that we have had, any discussions that we have had with Rich LaSalle and other folks have been documented by me and sent out to everybody that is on the committee. So everybody that has seen emails from me can look at every single email, and on that to list will be every single person that is on this committee.
Thank you. Thank you for your
Yes.
time.
Thank you.
Good. Yeah. The next item is target shooting on town property. What are we having?
Thanks, Jason.
Target shooting on town property.
I haven't
Where the
had
boat
any,
launch goes.
I haven't heard any more complaints. Town administrator thought that if, the selectmen wanted to do anything about it, it should be coming from the Conservation Commission. I haven't heard any more problems at the horse farm or,
Is that where it's up to Moose Falls?
yeah.
The Moose Falls area?
And, they did meet, the town administrator and the police chief did meet in the south end with the housing for older persons. They're surrounded by state property, so they were going to address that with the state. But like I say, lately I haven't heard anything.
I'm trying to picture the one at the south end. Which one do you mean?
The one that back on Cutler Road, as you're going to Hudson
Oh,
on
yeah,
the right-hand
okay.
side,
Mhm.
they're surrounded by state property.
Right, That's by the road for the circumferential highway,
Yeah.
proposed route and so on, okay. Target, because we've allowed hunting,
We
On the
allow
town
hunting
land.
at Morris Falls, but I had
Not
talked
target
to
shooting.
the road agent about that, and it's maybe something we should look at, because there's a lot of pedestrian traffic up there,
Mhm.
plus you have the horses right next door, so we need to revisit that.
before the hunting season gets here, okay. Okay, rainfall report. Roger's not here, so we're not gonna know how much rain we got.
Nope.
Other items for review and discussion, Joan?
Okay, September 15th, I'm going to a herpetology basics in Epsom. Should be interesting. It was specifically for southern New Hampshire, and what to do with development in reptiles. That's, when is it? September 15th.
That was the email that you had sent.
No,
No, that's another one.
What was the email that there was some sort of conference over in Merrimack?
that was this one. There's a GIS mapping. Here's one there. September 13th, I think, to learn how to use GIS, or the NRPC's new, here it is. Workshop Introduction to MapGeo, NRPC's Live Maps application. That's Wednesday, September 13th, from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. at the NRPC office in Merrimack.
Okay, that's September 13th.
Yeah. Are you interested? I'll pass this down.
That's a Wednesday.
Let's do.
Thank you.
June 8th minutes. Do we have some June 8th minutes?
Yeah.
June 8th.
I made one correction on the second page. June 8th.
Was I here?
Don't know.
I don't think so.
Oh, good, no.
Let's see, who else wasn't here? Absent, Michael, Sharon Jones, Richard Husband, Mary Dodson, Kevin Bork, Selectman's rep. Okay, I was here, Joan was here, Roger was here, and Harry was here.
Well, last June?
Who is
This
this?
past June, yeah,
Oh.
months ago.
Kevin Burke?
Harry, you can keep this if you want to go there. You want to go there?
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Are we still on other business, or?
Right now, we're looking at minutes. We'll
Yeah.
go back to other minutes in a minute.
Oh,
Well, on the other business, I don't know if there's anything, we've got a lot of new people moving in down where I live, behind the golf course, okay?
we do?
Yes. There's at least 4 or 5 houses for sale,
Let's do that.
and I'm 87.6% sure that one of the houses that sold, they put in a pool, and I suspected they got over-enthusiastic with the conservation line.
You should be calling the building inspector,
Okay.
because he would have to issue a
Well,
permit for
the
the pool.
point being is there, because there are a lot of people, is there something that we can do just to remind people?
Didn't we have a handout? We had a handout before, didn't we, of some kind?
Not specifically for that area, but yeah, we could,
Generate one?
we could take the notes off the plan and ship that to everybody that's
That
a
might be-
river owner.
That might be a good idea.
Just to remind, I'm not,
Yeah, just
Just
say,
to
here are the
reaffirm, just to
notes.
reaffirm that the people who know, and the new people don't know, so the.
right, and there's been a
A turnover, yeah. Yeah, turnover.
Yeah, for our neighborhood, it's very high turnover, so.
Because I can see, on the assessing system, I can see who is newer and just say, welcome to Litchfield, and by the way, here's a note from you.
That'd be just a nice gentle reminder, that's right.
Yeah, because it may or may not cause a problem, and, you know, I know how
And I
hard
could
to
put in there and check with the building inspector if you have any questions. I'll tell him.
Well, I'm sure they got a building permit for the pool.
Oh, yeah, for a pool, yeah.
But when they were cutting trees,
There was me, there was Joan.
it appeared that they got over enthusiastic, so.
Yeah, Harry, though, you were there, you can look at the minutes too. I mean, everybody can look at them, but, you know, yeah. Are they fighting out there?
No,
Sounds like it.
Margaret is feisty.
She should have brought the lane.
Yeah, she should.
So I just had a change on the second page of the date there on June 8th.
The second page, okay, May 4th. So I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes as printed. And let's see, Joan can second or Harry can second?
I'll second.
What's this all of a sudden, I can second everything,
Well,
right?
you're in there, so you're official. Yeah. Okay. All in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And abstention is 1, 2, 3 abstained.
Yeah.
Right.
1,
Yeah,
2, 3, accept.
yeah, 3, 4, and 3 abstained. Okay, now, back,
Can I have those back so I can remember to
Yeah.
post them?
excuse me, I'm sorry. Now, non-public session, are we ever ready to go into non-public at this time?
I believe so.
Okay. Want to go turn that sign over that says open and make it say closed?
Well, first you have to make a motion
We
to,
will.
okay.
Go ahead, no, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Don't pay any attention to us. Working.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we go into a non-public session pursuant to RSA 91-A:3 little d.
D. Little D.
I think he said D. He said D.
I thought I
I
said
don't, I second it.
Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye. I'm gonna-
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, I'm gonna consider that a roll call vote. We have all agreed, but we'll list as a roll call vote for the records.
Okay.
Okay.